According to Elon, the Treasury Department has been spending over $100 billion annually, giving money to people without Social Security or ID numbers.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjakovich, and we are unapologetically outspoken.
Okay, so I tuned into the Super Bowl, which I was not planning on. I was like, screw the Super Bowl, I am just not even going to tune in. And then all those rumors started about Elon Musk and how he spent like $40 million of his own money to run all these different ads exposing the
Right.
government.
Mhm.
So I tuned in and like I'm watching and watching. My daughter's like, "Where's the Elon ads?" I'm like, "I don't know. Maybe they're saving it for the halftime, maybe for the, closer to the end." No, 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 no. We were bamboozled. And I kept going on TikTok and everyone's like, "Where are the ads?" And then some lady's like, "Yeah, now that I think of it, Elon Musk never posted himself that he was putting ads. It was other people saying that. And it was probably people that like were trying to promote the Super Bowl and get more people to tune in." And I'm like, I sat through that whole thing and didn't even get to see the ads. I was so pissed. Um,
Did Trump leave early? Like, I didn't watch the Super Bowl at all. I honestly couldn't care less. I don't care about the halftime show. I don't care about the
Same.
tradition, the interesting commercials. Like, I just don't give a shit. But I did see, like, and I don't watch football. I don't know anything about either of these teams, but didn't one just like completely slaughter the other?
Yes, the Eagles. And so people were saying like, "Oh, it's going to be rigged and the Chiefs are going to win because Taylor Swift's boyfriend or whatever is like on the Chiefs, and ever since that happened, they've been winning." And but no, the Eagles won. But here's like the only interesting part about the whole damn thing. The halftime show was horrible, horrible. They had I don't even know if that's his name, Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, Kendrick
Um,
Lamar. I do know
yeah.
that name.
Okay, so you know him. Well,
Mhm.
I don't know any of his songs, and it was just like horrible. It was so freaking bad. The one thing that's interesting though is he has a song where he's basically calling out Drake for being a pedophile. And he's kind of like calling out the industry. So I was like, okay, well, that's
Good.
cool. But then the other songs reminded me of like 2020, like BLM wokeness or whatever.
That's what I read, is it was just like
Yeah.
super woke.
And at first, we were getting excited because there was like a car behind him, and then like all of his people went to form the American flag. And we were like, oh, like, is Trump gonna pop out of that car or something? That would be hilarious. No, nothing exciting happened for the halftime. So that was a disappointment. But the only thing that was like interesting was, I guess, when the crowd saw Trump, they went wild. So during I think it was the national anthem, the screen like went onto Trump and everyone just went like nuts, and you could hear it like, I mean, people were so excited to see him, right?
He's what, the first sitting president to actually
Yeah,
attend a
in
Super Bowl game,
history.
right? Yeah.
Yep. And he was saying like, I feel like it's important for me to attend because it's such a big, event in our country. Um, so yeah, the crowd went wild for him, which just again, it shows the shift and like the overall feel, right? Well, then the camera goes to Taylor Swift and the whole crowd starts booing her. And so people online, it was like a mix because there were a lot of people that were like, I don't get it. Like, what did she do? And it's like, well, number one, she backed Kamala. And number two, people are just sick of celebrities. Like we've been talking about, like the downfall of like the music industry and Hollywood. People are over it. And I
Yeah.
think at an event like the Super Bowl, it just really made it clear what the masses are thinking right now. So that was the only interesting part that I took away from the whole thing. And I was pissed that I wasted those precious minutes of my life watching it.
Well, I'm glad I didn't tune in then.
Yeah. So anyhow, that was the excitement of the Super Bowl, but we have a bombshell report that came out by Michael Shellenberger. If this guy does not win a Pulitzer at this point, we need to like protest because he has uncovered so many things that
I,
are just crazy,
I'm surprised that Schellenberger and Taibbi are still alive.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in case anyone doesn't know, Michael Shellenberger was one of the journalists that exposed the Twitter files. And he used to be very left-leaning, just like Taibbi. But then, they uncovered how the CIA and all these agencies were working behind the scenes with social media. Well, anyhow, now he's been digging into the USAID thing, just like everyone else is. And he's found evidence showing that USAID, the CIA, and the State Department were all in cahoots and behind Trump's impeachment in 2019. Okay, so, and keep in mind, DOGE uncovered that those agencies were working together and spending our tax dollars for regime changes overseas. So we know they do it overseas. Now it's appearing that the same thing was happening right here in the United States with Trump's impeachment. So, just as a refresher, Trump was impeached for improperly pressuring Zelensky to investigate corruption in Ukraine. Imagine that. Um, that were involving American interests, especially involving the Biden family and their shady business dealings in Ukraine. So the impeachable offense was a quid pro quo. See, I knew with no sleep, I'm going to be like talking over my words. But anyhow, Trump allegedly was going to like release congressional approved military aid to Ukraine in exchange for Zelensky investigating this corruption. But then, if Zelensky announced this investigation into Biden, it could have interfered with the election. So that was the whole case for impeaching Trump. And it all started with a report by the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, or OCCRP. So the OCCRP report alleged that there were two Soviet born Florida businessmen who were key actors behind a plan for Trump to investigate the Bidens. So, according to the story, the two businessmen connected Rudy Giuliani to two former Ukrainian prosecutors. Well, it turns out that USAID was funding the OCCRP the entire time. So, in other words, the US government controlled group, OCCRP, did the research that led to Trump's impeachment. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, they were being paid to give a report. So Schellenberger words it a lot better than I do. He says, quote, "It appears that the CIA, USAID, and OCCRP were all involved in the impeachment of President Trump in ways similar to the regime change operations that all three organizations engage in abroad. The difference is that it is highly illegal and even treasonous for CIA, USAID, and its contractors and intermediaries known as cutouts to interfere in U.S. politics this way." End quote. We say this every episode, but we need to see arrests. I mean, we're talking about treasonous activities. Start arresting people. How much worse can it be? They tried to basically do a coup on
Yeah.
Trump.
Yeah. It is 100% treason. And it's like there's so much shit that's just come out this last weekend, right? One of the things I want to mention is we're going to keep talking about DOGE because they just keep exposing billions of dollars in wasteful government spending. And this story came out on Friday. And if it's true, it's possibly going to be one of the largest financial scandals in American history because, according to Elon, the Treasury Department has been spending over $100 billion annually giving money to people without social security or ID numbers. So he went and posted on X this weekend after he met with Treasury Department employees on Friday. And he wrote, quote, "Yesterday, I was told there are currently over 100 billion a year of entitlement payments to individuals with no social security numbers or even a temporary ID number. If accurate, this is extremely suspicious. When I asked if anyone at the Treasury had a rough guess for what percentage of that number is unequivocal and obvious fraud, the consensus in the room was about half. So 50 billion a year or 1 billion a week. This is utterly insane and must be addressed immediately, end quote. And he also said that the DOGE investigators discovered that government payments were being made with no proper documentation, no audit trail, and zero accountability.
Like, how is that even possible? You know?
Right.
I don't know what's a bigger scandal, stealing billions of dollars from Social Security or plotting a regime change. I mean, it's like it's never ending. This that's so bad. The rot to the core. It's just terrible. I saw a post by the bad hombre on X, and he says, quote, why the hell was Social Security Administration sending regular payments of between $180,000 to $225,000 in the form of grants to Ukraine every few days under Joe and Kamala? I mean, what the fuck? Every few days,
Yeah.
this money was coming out of the Social Security Administration, and he posted all the screenshots from usaspending.gov to back up what he's saying here. So not only were people without Social Security numbers collecting payments, but Ukraine was getting money from the Social Security Fund.
Yeah. Isn't that insane?
It's totally insane. Oh, and the other thing I saw, Elon post something about how they don't deduplicate social security numbers in the system, meaning like if the same social security number was used multiple times, the system wouldn't catch it. With
Yeah.
all the technology we have nowadays, they didn't have that in place. Like, are you kidding me?
That and like listen to what else they didn't have in place. Like, because this is so insane. But before I get to it, I wanted to mention, don't you think the timing is totally suspicious? Because this information comes out on Friday, right? And before this, the Democrats are trying to stop DOGE from doing their job because they don't want their corruption exposed. So, right after this came out on Friday, a U.S. district judge named Paul Engelmayer made an emergency ruling on Saturday blocking DOGE and all Trump appointees, which I think even includes Secretary of State Bessent, like who can't access his own fucking department. They're all banned from accessing the Treasury Department system, at least until this coming Friday, when he's going to rule on whether or not to extend the injunction. And this is all related to this lawsuit against the Trump administration by 19 Democratic state attorney generals on Friday. And they're concerned that, DOGE is being given access to private information. And so the judge is saying that disclosing sensitive and confidential information heightens the risk and the system's going to be more vulnerable to hacking. And so what is he really saying? We don't want DOGE to tell the American people what the fucking government has been doing with your money, your taxpayer money, fraudulently for the
He's
past
saying,
however many years.
I'm a paid off judge that works
Mhm.
for the Democrat elites.
It is an Obama appointed judge.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, let's connect the dots here. DOGE reveals all of this fraud with Social Security payments, and this judge blocks DOGE from the payment system where
Mhm.
this fraud was discovered. How
Yeah.
much more in your face can it be? And I'm sorry, how is he telling the top of the administration that's over the entire thing that they can't access their own system?
Right.
Are you kidding me? Like, it's just mind blowing. And
Mhm.
again, we say this every week. I'm not surprised, but I am. I mean, nothing surprises me at this point, but it's getting pretty close to where I'm just like, what the hell? I feel like every single American taxpayer, regardless of political affiliation, should be outraged. This is like the definition of gaslighting. They did something illegal, they got caught, but now they're going to try and like twist this around to make Elon look like he's the bad guy. But here's the thing, no one's buying it. And the more the left pushes against DOGE, the more guilty they look. And it's even causing people on the left to wake up to the fact that maybe the Democratic Party is the party of the elites after all. And so there's like this whole trend on TikTok where people are posting that they regret voting for Kamala now that they're seeing all this fraud and corruption with our tax dollars by the Biden administration. Then you look at Trump's approval rating, it's higher than it's ever been, and it's the highest among young people. And the younger generation is becoming the most right-wing generation in modern history. The boomers are the only ones that are still split 50-50, but I'm guessing when they start seeing their social security funds have been messed with,
right?
maybe they'll start swinging more right too. So the left can keep trying to fight DOGE all they want, but they're not going to have a party left by the time it's all over.
Yeah, and it's like not only is this what the people of America want, but the way Elon's talking, he's making it sound like the employees at the Treasury Department are on board with making changes and like they acknowledge that the system's been completely fucked up. Because he posted on X that they're willing to work with him and they've agreed to comply with the changes that Doge is asking for. So that just makes this like total cock block legal move by the judge complete bullshit and even more obvious they're trying to hide something, right? And I want to read what Elon posted on X. I need my glasses. Okay. And my phone doesn't recognize me with my glasses on. Fuck.
Come
One
on,
sec.
AI.
Okay. He says, to be clear, what the at Doge team and at US Treasury have jointly agreed makes sense in the following. Require that all outgoing government payments have a payment categorization code, which is necessary in order to pass financial audits. This is frequently left blank, making audits almost impossible. All payments must include a rationale for the payment in the comment field, which is currently left blank. Importantly, we are not yet applying any judgment to this rationale, but simply requiring that some attempt be made to explain the payment more than nothing. The do not pay list of entities that are known to be fraudulent or people who are dead or who are probable fronts for terrorist organizations or who do not match congressional appropriations must actually be implemented and not ignored. Also, it can currently take up to a year to get on this list, which is far too long. This list should be updated at least weekly, if not daily. The above super obvious and necessary changes are being implemented by existing longtime career government employees, not by anyone from at Doge. It is ridiculous that these changes didn't already exist.
It is absolutely crazy that that didn't already exist. That's like basics. And just think this is one department in our government. Like just imagine how many others are have the same crazy bullshit.
Yeah, it's insane.
I remember when my mother-in-law passed away and like I called Social Security to let them know because I'm like, I don't want them to keep sending checks because it's in another state and we didn't want to, like, I don't know, we just to do the right thing, right? And the lady I talked to at Social Security, she was like, oh, well, thank you so much for calling me. I mean, this is very unusual. Normally, nobody calls. And I'm thinking, oh my God, now, yeah, they probably let it go the full year and just keep collecting the checks. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
they're sending like not only to dead people, but that they know are fraudulent. And he was basically saying like, yeah, they know that this is happening, but they've just been like too lazy to do anything about it because the prior administration didn't care.
Wow. Well, that's the government. I mean, you always hear
Yeah.
stuff about government jobs, but
Mhm.
not anymore because Elon is cleaning house, or at least attempting to. Well, okay, so someone on TikTok that I saw took a screenshot of the spreadsheet that Elon had shared, where it's like showing an overview of all of this ridiculous spending. And they put the screenshot in ChatGPT and asked it to analyze the data and like explain it in simple terms. So I'm just going to share what it said. It said, starting with our national debt, we are paying $1 trillion per year in interest alone, which ChatGPT called a financial black hole. And it has more than doubled since 2019. Then, when you look at spending on education, training, and social services, it has more than doubled, totaling $1 trillion dollars over the past 5 years. Yet, like you said, Tara, in the last episode, education metrics have actually decreased. So we've spent $1 trillion with nothing to show for it. Then you look at Medicaid and what they called government health care. The spending is up 56.9%, totaling $3.7 trillion dollars with a T just over the past 5 years. Veteran affairs spending is up 65%. Social Security spending is up 40%. Now I think we know why. A lot of useless spending in that department. Infrastructure and transportation is up 42.7%, which is interesting because they're spending so much money, yet transportation disasters have happened left and right under the Biden administration. And I don't know about you, but I'm not seeing any infrastructure improvements either. So you have these astronomical increases in spending during the Biden administration. Now DOGE comes in and is exposing the fraud where this money is being funneled to like NGOs and celebrities and shell corporations. And the politicians protesting against DOGE are the ones behind it. It's like they're outing themselves. Just lock them up, arrest them at this point.
Yeah, let me blow your mind with some more information. And this one I don't even have notes on. I'm just gonna read from the article because it just came across my feed right before we got on the podcast. But apparently, federal agencies have awarded over $50 million over the past 4 years to the Aspen Institute and the Atlantic Council. And these are like total liberal think tank organizations. And basically, the projects that they've been doing are insane. So, $6 million program to provide virtual exchanges for students in the Middle East and to host a $300,000 conference of women empowerment in Saudi Arabia, just two examples. So it's the State Department, USAID, and the Department of Defense have awarded 15.3 million in grants, cooperative agreements, and contracts to the Atlantic Council since 2021 and 32.6 million to the Aspen Institute over the same time frame. And again, this is all being paid for by American taxpayers so that we can fund these liberal fucking think tanks that have also received a shit ton of money from Meta, from Goldman Sachs, from the Rockefeller Foundation, all of these, elite far left organizations. So that just came out. And then just wait until all of these money scandals come to light. And I'm talking about like COVID, right? I hope this fucking comes up soon because one of the things that came out on Friday was Elon announced that DOGE canceled more than $180 million in contracts from the Department of Health and Human Services. And these were not contracts for healthcare programs. And he made that very clear. It was all for administrative expenses. And Stephanie, would you like to know what one of these contracts was for?
Oh, yeah, please. I'm dying to know.
For a fucking museum exhibit on Dr. Anthony Fauci. $168,000 for an Anthony Fauci exhibit at the National Institute of Health Museum. And Elon even posted screenshots of the funds that were being allocated for this exhibit. And it showed that the money was supposed to be spent between July of 2024 and July of this year. This for the man who lied under oath to Congress, who lied to Americans, who basically lied to the entire fucking world about COVID and ruined millions, if not billions of lives, and was preemptively pardoned for the crimes he has not yet been accused of committing, even though we know he did. And he was getting a fucking museum exhibit celebrating him from the Biden admin, courtesy of our American tax dollars.
You know, that's the other thing. We need to look into these museums
Mhm.
because do you remember during COVID when everything was like shut down, right? And even though everything was shut down, including museums, they passed that bill and like it was like hundreds of millions of dollars that went to the Smithsonian. And it's like, why do they need this money? It was like emergency funding when they weren't even open. I mean, I
Right.
think these are all a front for the elites. Like Fauci, he probably got a huge amount of money in his pocket for his little exhibit.
Oh, you know he did. And the crazy thing is like just with the Treasury Department, The National Institute of Health is like totally on board with the cost cutting, right? So they even posted a chart on their X account, the NIH X account on Saturday. They posted a chart showing how DOGE has already identified a way to cut their expenses by over 4 billion. And it says, quote, last year, 9 billion of the 35 billion that the NIH granted for research was used for administrative overhead, which is known as indirect costs. Today, NIH lowered the maximum indirect cost rate research institutions can charge the government to 15%, above what many major foundations allow and much lower than the 60% plus that some institutions charge the government today. This change will save more than 4 billion a year effective immediately, end quote. Again, why is this happening now?
Yeah, right,
Why wasn't
exactly.
why wasn't this done fucking years ago?
Well, and it's just like a punch in the gut because now everyone's sitting down to do their taxes, knowing there's all of this fraud that's been going on probably a
Right.
lot longer than just the Biden administration. And
Mhm.
yet we have to pay our taxes. And I mean, this is probably a rumor, just like the Super Bowl ads, but I had heard that Elon posted something about how every American taxpayer should get like a huge payout or refund for all the waste that's been going, around, which I agree.
Yeah, we
I mean,
should.
this is our hard-earned money and this is what they're spending it on. But it makes me wonder because you had mentioned that there's people in the Treasury Department, people in NIH that are like agreeing with DOGE. Now that their funding is getting cut off, what do you bet these little rats are all going to start talking? Like you
Right.
have that Lindy Lee that was part of the DNC, and now she's like on the podcast circuit talking about how she thinks Obama was the one puppeting Biden and how it was like so much worse than we even knew. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more people talking because they're going to be pissed that they're no longer getting their slush fund.
Yeah. Yeah, it's called rats exiting the sinking ship.
Hmm.
So another thing, you brought up the Super Bowl again. Right before the Super Bowl, Trump did an interview with Fox News with Brett Baer. And he was basically saying that the Department of Education is going to be the next Doge target, which I think is amazing. And I just want to play this short clip of what he said.
I don't know if it's kickbacks or what's going on, but the people, look, I ran on this and the people want me to find it. And I've had a great help with Elon Musk, who's been terrific.
Bottom line, you say you trust him.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. And, the people elected me on that.
Yes, I'm glad he said that because
Yeah.
that's what the Democrats are saying. Again, they're going with this is a threat to democracy. And, we didn't vote for Elon. Yes, we did.
He did.
He ran on that during his campaign, and a ton of people went running towards Trump after announcing he's going to have Elon create Doge.
And it's just, he said the same thing that we said about Trump. Elon doesn't need this. He's a fucking gazillionaire, right? He
Yeah.
doesn't need this job, just like Trump is a whatever millionaire, trillionaire, I don't know what he is, but he doesn't need this job. They're not doing it for the fucking money. They both probably had way less stressful lives before interjecting themselves into politics. And so it's very clear that what they're doing is for the country, for the American people. And so it's the exact opposite of what the Democrats want.
I feel like they're superhuman. You have Trump that did this interview with Brett Baer. He goes and plays golf with Tiger Woods in the morning, then attends the Super Bowl in the evening, is like posting left and right. Then you have Elon, this, like you said, trillionaire, however much money he has, sleeping on a cot on the floor of a government building to try to fight corruption. Meanwhile, he's creating rockets that can fly to space and then come and dock themselves back here. He has Tesla, he has Starlink. He's posting simultaneously about all of these things all the time. I'm like, this guy is freaking superhuman. I would love to just follow him around for the day and see, like, does he ever sleep? Does he eat? Does he go to the bathroom? Because he seems to be busy 24/7. It's
It would be
crazy.
exhausting just to watch.
Seriously, yeah. But okay, speaking of the Department of Education, did you see, I think it was Friday, how there were all these Democrats protesting outside the Department of Education and they were locked out of the building?
Yeah, I actually had to listen to it and listen to fucking Maxine Waters and just made me sick.
I was like, it's hilarious because, you're seeing all this on social media, and I've just been going right to the comments section because it's like these Democrats, their posts, you would think there'd be all these Democrats supporting them. There's like no posts supporting them. I mean, everyone's pissed about this. And I guess this is the fourth federal building that Democrats have been locked out of now. But Trump, he took it a big step further when he announced to the New York Post that he revoked the security clearances for Biden's Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who I think was really running the show,
Mhm.
Obama, he just announced, New York Attorney General Letitia James, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and former National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. And then you had a few other people. There was Biden's Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, a few lawyers, Andrew Weissman, Mark Zaid, and Norm Eason, which I think those were the people going after Trump. I'm not sure. So basically, now because they don't have their security clearance, they're no longer going to be able to access classified information or enter federal buildings. And that I think that's freaking awesome. I was like, this is amazing.
It is. I still think they all need to be held accountable for their fucking crimes. Most of whom you just mentioned there are actually responsible for treason. But yeah, let's start with revoking their security clearances.
Well, here's where I know I can be a bit naive, but I'm a little optimistic this time around because, all of these people that did something wrong, the difference now is they're cut off from the system, and all the people that were helping them are no longer getting their slush funds.
Right.
So they're not going to be there to protect them and cover up information when the Trump administration starts doing their investigations. And I guarantee that's coming. They're probably getting the low-hanging fruit now. And then I really hope they spend the next 4 years going after each and every one of these people.
Yeah, I hope so too. And especially considering how just the way they're going after government spending is
Mhm.
only going to uncover more and more and more corruption. And it's all going to lead back to these fucking people.
Well, and think about it. It's like these people have stolen money from us personally, our hard-earned money. Every single American should be wanting to see accountability. I mean, if someone came and robbed your house, you would want to see accountability. You would want to see them get arrested. Well, these people were robbing us. This is our money.
Right. And that's why anyone who is against DOGE is clearly somehow involved in fraud or so fucking naive to think that this is something that's not helpful for America.
It was funny. I saw Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders posting, like how this is a threat to democracy and we should get rid of DOGE and everything else. And people were posting the funniest memes, but there was one of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders standing side by side with a big Pfizer outfit on. And I'm like, it's so true. They're just bought and paid for puppets. And
Yeah.
yeah, they know they're screwed. So they're going to go out kicking and screaming.
Yeah, and hopefully sooner rather than later. Um, this is a little off topic, but I have to bring this up because you were talking about the DOE and you brought up earlier last week. Um, we were talking about how they got 190 million in pandemic recovery funds from the Biden admin, and this was all supposed to help students improve their reading skills. But then we saw that the most recent report card from the National Assessment for Educational Progress showed that reading scores are like the worst they've ever been in the fucking country for reading proficiency in our history. Well, I read this very interesting article in the New York Post this morning, and it was talking about how out of all of the states that did so poorly on this assessment, there was only one state that actually improved, and that was Louisiana. And they went from 49th place to 32nd in this 2 year period. And so, how did they do this? Well, according to the article, they implemented a measure in 2021 mandating that all teachers from kindergarten to third grade would have to complete a course on what they call the science of reading. And it goes back to traditional methods of teaching phonics and like phonetic awareness. And I don't have kids in school. I have no idea how they're taught now, but the article was saying that a lot of schools and educators use something called balanced literacy these days, which is a focus on, they described it as like vibe-based learning and using picture power and guesswork to try to figure out what words mean. And 25% of schools have been mandating this curriculum, and basically it's just made kids dumber. So I guess there was a lawsuit that was filed in Massachusetts in December against the DOE by several families because of this curriculum. And they're calling it like deceptive and fraudulent marketing and sale of products and services that cause developmental, emotional, and financial injuries. And the families are alleging that this curriculum and teaching style has basically contributed to illiteracy. So when Louisiana stopped teaching this shit and they went back to the basics, not only have their state's reading scores improved dramatically over the past 2 years, but they did the same thing with math. And they went back to the basics of like using old school flashcards with math facts on them instead of, the nonsense geared toward the dismantling racism and math instruction. And the results showed that the fourth graders in Louisiana were in the top 5 in the nation for their growth in math. And the schools are actually giving their kids literacy tests throughout the years. They're sharing the results with the parents. They're not allowing kids who don't actually pass the curriculum for their grade to move up to the next grade. Like many schools just, pass the kids on even though they don't know shit. And they also signed universal school choice into law last year. And again, I don't have kids, but I know you can weigh in on this. I think it's fantastic. I hope that this is the kind of change that gets implemented through the Department of Education as a whole. And I can't wait to see what DOGE uncovers with the DOE, because clearly it's a fucking mess.
And this is where it's actually dangerous with all of this spending, right? And you get these DEI people and these woke people that basically their whole job is to make shit up. You know what I mean? Just like during COVID, it was like make up a bunch of inclusive bullshit and we'll pay you. So they come up with this nonsense and the reading thing. This is what was happening. So phonics, right? You learn through phonics. It's how it's always been done, and it's never been an issue before. Everyone learns how to read, right? Well, they decide, well, we're not going to do that anymore. Instead, we're going to show kids the book and have them try to guess what the words are. I shit you not. Like, it is unbelievable. But why did they do that? Again, I think it's someone wanted to justify their job and
Yeah.
probably had a whole department because they're overdoing the entire curriculum for kids, just like with math and the Common Core that failed so miserably.
I was going to say, I do remember Common Core only because I had friends with kids who were
Hmm.
trying to help their kids learn math. And they're like, I don't understand this Common Core shit. And I looked at it and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, is what it is. And what's sad is now that they're doing away with all this stuff, what about the kids that grew up with it? Like they're screwed. Like
Yeah.
they can't go back and really fix it at this point. They're in high school or college and it's just wild to me. So this is literally why I'm like 99% sure I'm gonna homeschool my youngest two because even though they're getting in and they're overhauling this stuff, it's gonna take a while to root all this nonsense out. And it's just so bad. I mean, firsthand, my oldest went through public school. and she's in high school now, and I have nothing good to say about it. Nothing.
And you're in Florida. You're in a
Hmm.
fucking red
Yeah.
state.
But it doesn't matter because the Department of Education, it might as well be like a DEI woke, like that's their culture. And so, regardless of state, like that's who you're getting to teach your children. And it's just wild. It's no wonder so many people have been indoctrinated.
Yeah,
So,
I
I'm glad
think
he's addressing it though.
this to me is one of the most critical areas that they need to make changes because it's our youth that's going to be the next generation, right?
Hmm.
And so, as much as we need to save money in all these other areas, I really think diving into everything that's fucked up in the Department of Education is one of the biggest things he needs to do. And then the other thing is defense, right? So, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, he did an interview yesterday where he was talking about how he expects to find billions of wasteful spending in the Department of Defense, and he welcomes DOGE to come in and help. So I want to play this clip. He did an interview with Fox News.
Tell us about this upcoming look at the spending at the Defense Department. Should we expect hundreds of billions of dollars in wasteful spending there?
Unfortunately, I think so. And the president is right. He's setting the pace. And he is also correct that American taxpayers deserve to know exactly how and where their money is spent. The fact that I have to commit, Maria, to an audit being done in 4 years is bad enough. The Pentagon should be able to pass a budget right now. Thankfully, the Marine Corps has passed a clean audit for 2 years in a row, and I applaud them. But that needs to go across the entire department. So that will be a focus. Where we spend dollars, we need to know, or when we spend dollars, we need to know where they're going and why. That's simple accounting, and that has not existed at the Defense Department. We're going to fix that. But that's not even DOGE. I mean, we welcome Elon Musk and DOGE coming into our department to help us identify additional ways in which we can streamline processes, fast track acquisitions, cut waste, cut tail to put it to tooth. We know in a world where America's $37 trillion in debt, resources will not be unlimited. So every dollar we can find that isn't being spent wisely is one we can put toward warfighters. So we welcome DOGE at DOD. We will partner with them, and it's long overdue. The Defense Department's got a huge budget, but it needs to be responsible.
I love hearing this. I love hearing that they want to fucking cut government bureaucracy.
I was gonna say, like, it's so refreshing feeling like there are competent people in our
Mhm.
government because we
Yes.
haven't seen that in a very long time. And you might have already said this on a previous episode, so sorry if you did, but what I saw last night when I was looking through stuff is the Pentagon, you know how like they've never passed an audit?
Right.
Well, apparently every time they do an audit, they're charging $1 billion just to perform the audit that they then fail.
I
So
didn't.
try explaining that one.
Oh my God, it's such a shit show. Doge,
Mhm.
I fucking love you. I
Yeah.
love what you're doing. Keep it up. It's fucking amazing. Elon, you're amazing. Trump, you're amazing. And to kind of like end on a fun note, did you see, Stephanie, that Trump wants to ban paper straws?
No, but I remember him talking about this on the campaign trail where he was like, they give you a paper straw, but then a plastic cup. It makes no sense.
Yeah, which is the truth, right?
Yeah.
And so he posts on Truth Social yesterday and he said, I will be signing an executive order next week ending the ridiculous Biden push for paper straws which don't work. And then in all caps, back to plastic exclamation marks. And I totally agree. I think paper straws are disgusting. You know how
They
Europe is
disintegrate in your
they
mouth.
disintegrate in your mouth, not just in your drink, but in your mouth. And it's so gross. They're chewy and disgusting. Um, and you know how like Europe is, steps ahead in all this environmental shit. Well, I've noticed here they use a lot of metal straws and glass straws, which I honestly don't mind. I think they're cool. But to me, this says like people here don't like the fucking paper straws either. And
Yeah.
I welcome plastic straws, especially the little flex ones that you
Yep.
can. can bend.
I don't even, if there's a paper straw, I'm like, I'll save my money. I don't need whatever the drink is. Like, because
Yeah.
it's just, it's gross. It's just like in the grocery stores where some of them were getting rid of plastic bags, but then you're walking around the grocery store and literally everything is in a plastic
Plastic.
container, a plastic
Mhm.
wrap. And it's just like, what are we doing here? You know, just like the cups are plastic, just give me the plastic straw. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. I mean, man, all of this going on, and he still has time to get rid of paper straws. The
No, I
man
love it.
is wild. Well, okay, so this is another day of Doge kicking ass. We'll keep the updates coming because I know everyone's curious. I know I am. So, anyhow, I hope everyone has a good week, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in.